we're going to start with what's called a cat camel. And this is going to be an active flexibility move. So it's more about the motion that we're going through, not necessarily a stretch at the end range. So we're going to move through flexion and extension in your spine. So you're going to start on your hands and knees. Make sure your wrists are stacked right under your shoulders and your knees are stacked straight under your hips. And then you're going to start just by tucking your tailbone, initiating the movement at your hips. And then slowly, one vertebra at a time, keeping your core engaged, you're going to curl all the way up until the last thing to look down is your head. And then next you'll shift into cat, where again you initiate the movement from your hips, first lifting your tailbone up towards the ceiling, and then moving one vertebra at a time until your head is the last piece to come up. And then you're going to keep moving through this motion, going into flexion and extension, around 5 or 6 times, just moving back and forth, remembering to keep your core engaged the whole time, and that it's about the movement, not an intense stretch at the end ranges. So after the active flexibility, you're going to move into what's called a modified curl up. You're going to lie on your back, and you're going to straighten out one leg, have the other knee bent at about 90 degrees, and if your shoulders allow it, you're going to place your hands underneath your low back to help keep the curve of your spine. If this is really uncomfortable for your shoulders to hold this position, you could also roll up a towel and place it underneath your low back here instead, and then just have your arms straight at your sides. So starting in this position, you're going to engage your core. It's going to feel like you're trying to protect yourself if someone were about to punch you in the gut. So engaging your core muscles, and then you're just going to lift your head and shoulders up in one piece and hold for 10 seconds. It's a really small movement, really surprisingly challenging. And then you're going to, after the 10-second hold, you're going to lower down, take a rest, and then switch so that your other leg is straight, and then repeat again. So lifting your head and shoulders up as one piece, engaging your core, holding for 10 seconds, and then slowly lowering down. When you lift up, you want to make sure that you're not curling your neck up or lifting way too high. So it's a really small movement. You're maybe lifting an inch off the ground and keeping your shoulders and your head all together. So then you'll go back to the other side, and you'll repeat that 3 times on each side with 10-second holds. And then as you get stronger, you can continue to add more sets. So still hold for 10 seconds, but you can do it 3, 4, 5, as many times as you want. So our second strength exercise is going to be to help train the side core muscles in conjunction with the front. So that's your quadratus lumborum, your obliques, along with your rectus femoris, all the layers. So you're going to start with your elbow stacked straight under your shoulder. And then the easiest version is to stay in a little bit of hip flexion. So you're going to have your hips back a little bit. So you want to make sure that your elbow is stacked directly underneath your shoulder. And if you feel like your shoulder needs a little more support here, you can hold the top of your shoulder in place. So you're going to lift your hips up. The easiest version is going to be in hip flexion. So your hips are slightly back, and then both of your knees are bent. Slightly harder version is to go into hip extension. So keeping a straight line from your shoulder to your hips to your knees. And then the hardest version is you're actually going to straighten out your legs, lift your knees up, and have the top foot in front of the bottom foot here. And then make sure your hips are stacked one over the other, your core is strong so your back is not arching, and you can support your shoulder here with your other hand. You're going to hold this for at least 10 seconds, and then work your way up to holding for 30 seconds on each side. So next, the last of the big 3 back exercises is going to be the bird dog. So you're going to come back to your hands and knees, like how we started in the beginning for the cat camel. You're going to make sure, again, your wrists are stacked directly underneath your shoulders. Your knees are directly underneath your hips. From here, You're going to start with already engaging your core, like someone's about to punch you in the gut, for a nice neutral spine. And then you're going to reach forward with your arm and back with the opposite leg, lifting at the same time, and hold for 5 seconds, keeping your core strong. Don't let your back arch or your hips open out to the side. Everything stays nice and steady. After 5 seconds, you'll lower it down, and then switch over to the other side, reaching your left arm up and your right leg back, keeping that core strong, spine neutral, and shoulders away from your ears. And then you'll switch back to the other side, and you'll go back and forth about 5 times. All right, so those are the 4 exercises you can do to help maintain a healthy back, to keep your core strong, to keep your back strong, and also mobile with the active flexibility we did in the beginning.